My name's Alex, and I'm used to being alone. I grew up an only child, deep in the mountains with my parents in a small town. I always wanted more from life, so I moved out after graduating college and got myself a nice apartment in the city. I'm not gonna say where for my own safety, but it's somewhere in Texas. This happened the other night, and I'm still a little shaken by it. It wasn't weird at first. I could easily dismiss the sound of footsteps as we were creaking, or my next door neighbors, but one night when I was in my bed scrolling through TikTok, or it might have been YouTube Shorts, I heard it again. Loud footsteps echoing throughout my apartment. They were strong, like heavy boots, and then there was whispers. They were soft at first, hushed, barely audible, but they just kept getting louder and louder, and the words became increasingly disturbing. I remember clearly grabbing my phone one night, my switch for the light being across the room, so I settled for the flash, and I left to investigate. Thinking about it now, I wasn't exactly sure what I was planning to do to whoever was in my house. I just wanted evidence. Proof I wasn't going crazy. I don't know, it seemed stupid at first. I felt stupid. But the whispers kept existing, and I couldn't find the source. I checked the dark hallway outside my apartment. No one was there. I checked my kitchen. Nothing. Everywhere else was carpet. No way the boots thudding could have been from anywhere else. I went back to bed, barely eased. That's when it happened. I know for a fact I shut the door. I got in bed and I opened whatever app I was using again and got back to scrolling. And then the door swung open, smacking against the wall with a thud, but there was no one. None of my windows were open, and I swear I saw a black shadow-like figure from the corner of my eye. When I told my mom earlier, she said I was crazy and I should get more sleep, but I'm not sure. Do you think I'm crazy? Me and my dad went fishing all the time when I was younger, and we always joked about this mysterious creature people would complain about. My dad died a few years back, cancer, and this was one of the first times I had gone fishing in a long time, and by myself no less. It took a while for me to have the time to get my license and permit, but as soon as I did, I left to the Louisiana bayou, which like me and my father always went to. It was early evening during the autumn period, so the sun was setting a little. Not enough to head home, but just enough to dim the sky a little. I casted my line as I usually did, but a few minutes later, I saw a ripple on top of the water. At first I figured it was a fish coming too far to the surface, but I was wrong. I used my light to try and see further, only wanting to know how big my next pull was, but I saw this creature. It had these terrifying yellowish-green eyes, and its body was hard to see considering it was submerged, but it had this humanoid feel to it. I scrambled back desperately, and honestly, I lost my dad's rod in the process. I know I need to go back, but I can't. Something is off with the Louisiana bayou. Don't risk it like me. I could have lost a lot more than my dad's old rod. Update. Don't worry, I have lots of memories of my dad along with a bunch of stuff he gave me. Hope everyone's okay. I, 33 female, think my son, free male, was possessed by a demon or spirit. I never thought about it as a possibility. I hadn't moved house. I hadn't brought anything new home. It was just me and him. It all started the week after his dad left to go on a trip for work down through the States. We'd been fine on our own before, and I knew I could always call him or my parents if I needed help. I regret ignoring the signs. I just brushed them off, thinking it was his imagination or some weird child's stress that I wouldn't understand. Maybe even exhaustion, since I was trying to get him to sleep in his own bed. He tended to stay up later than usual, trying to defy me, so I just appointed it to that at first. But after the first 2 days, I noticed this look on his face, like he was thinking, more than a toddler should think. It was weird. He'd never had behavioral problems, but he was free now, so I just assumed it was a troublesome freeze, but instead of lashing out and creating messes like I expected, he was just avoiding me. One night I had found him speaking gibberish under his breath in the living room when I was washing up after dinner, but when I tried to ask him about it, he just glared at me and ran to his room. He also experienced these nightmares. I'm not sure what about, but it's enough to make him cry every night. There was one thing in particular that really threw me for a loop. The banging. Children were noisy, but children weren't that noisy. And when I went to let him out of his crib, I noticed blood on the edge of the rails. I couldn't find any on my little boy, but fear ran through me. I panicked so hard that night. When I called my boyfriend, my son's father, he assured me that it was probably his from cutting himself when he was putting the crib together, so I just dropped it. It was the only logical explanation. Then there was the smell. When my boyfriend came home, he noticed it too. It was a rotting smell. I found it 2 days after that. I was cleaning everything in the house, washing everything out, and doing anything to find the cause. Well, I found it. It was rats. 2 dead rats tucked into his pillow. We've never had problem with rats previously, especially not ones that were in pillows. They were put there deliberately, and my son was the only one home at the time. My husband thinks I'm paranoid, but I'm terrified of my own son. Something's not right, and I don't know what to do. Help me. Not my story, but my cousin's. We'll call him G. G, 27 male, moved into a new house with his fiancée somewhere up north from London. It was only later, after a few months of living there, that they began to notice strange behavior going on. G said it wasn't serious at first. A glass being broken randomly, forks dropping to the floor, just things that he generally could dismiss as leaving things too close to the edge. Doors began to creak louder than before, and randomly too, as if people were passing through them. But what really got G wanting to move was the loud bang he'd hear after the door was cracked shut behind him. Everyone kept telling them to move, but G's fiancée liked their home, wanted to protect their children or something. Things got worse. He's fairly recluse nowadays, too scared to even leave his room most days. His mother went to confront him, but he just kept saying she had to leave, that the spirits would get her too. Last I heard, he was taken to an asylum, but from the way he desperately tried to get people to listen, I'm starting to wonder if it was real. I feel like most towns have those weird myths or legends to stop people from doing what they want. That's why I didn't listen when they told me to get a day job. I was too set on the extra pay that nights would give me. In this economy, who could blame me? One thing to note about me is I can't drive. I never learned. I had plans to, but I just never got around to it. Money was tight and lessons were expensive, and the wait time was just not worth it at the moment. My office is around a corner block away from my house, so it's not like I was desperate to learn, but the worst part of it was that the buildings are tall and cramped together, so it's easier for people to hide in crooks and shadows. That's why I didn't notice it at first. I felt weird, but I never knew why. I clocked it down to having to walk in the dark and secrets of the streets. That was until I got a note on my door. I don't remember what the first one said, but it was something along the lines of, "You dropped your receipt, I hope you enjoyed your donuts." It was weird. Surely my receipt wouldn't have my address on it, but I didn't really care at the time. Then they kept appearing. Notes all taped to surfaces I was sure to find them. Buildings I would pass. Posts on the streets. My office desk. Some were fairly mundane, telling me about the weather or some generic office gossip. Others, they were downright creepy, ranging from compliments about my hair to deranged thoughts and ideologies. It was disturbing, to say the least. I called the police, but they shrugged it off and told me to just wait. One day though, after a few weeks of these creepy notes, they stopped, and I haven't had them since. Well, at least until today.